itself, it's not breathing for itself, and so it has to make contact with the placenta to exchange nutrients and wastes. So let's take a look at that. So the first part of your fetal circulation is the umbilical system. So we have blood vessels that travel through the umbilical cord to the placenta. So let me explain the placenta. The placenta is half mom, half baby. So when the placenta is forming, literally the mom's uterus will come away and form interdigitation like this, and then the baby's tissue that's developing will go like this. Okay? So this is the placenta. And so the blood vessels from the baby are traveling inside my hand. These are not blood vessels, okay? So just imagine this is tissue, and inside my hand is the blood vessels of the baby. And then inside my hand is the blood vessels of the mom. So the blood vessels in the blood of mom and baby never make direct contact with each other. There's always this placenta as a shield between baby's blood supply and mom's blood supply. But the interdigitation is so delicate that the nutrients and waste can diffuse. So diffusion occurs, but never does the mom's white blood cells, for example, see the baby's red blood cells, because if there's a wrong blood type, then the mom's body can reject the baby's body, and that can be very dangerous. So this is a place of diffusion to occur, but blood never mixes. And so conceptually imagine, right, what's the mom providing for the baby? She's breathing for the baby, so oxygen. And also she's eating for the baby, and so food, right? So what color of blood would we expect to see going towards the baby? Red or blue? Red, right. So if it's going towards the baby, it's going towards the baby's heart. If a blood vessel is going towards the heart, is it an artery or is it a vein? It's a vein. So in this case, the red is a vein. Okay, so the umbilical vein is bright red because it's bringing all that fresh oxygen and nutrients towards the baby, but the blood vessel is a vein because it's moving towards the baby's heart. And so the opposite is true for the artery, right? It's going away from the baby's heart. The baby's carrying all of those wastes, right? Here's my CO2, here's my metabolic wastes. Get rid of it for me, right? So there's a branch off of the internal iliac, as you can see, forming the umbilical artery. So this is a place where we have that color code is switched. And when the baby's born, you cut this, these eventually become ligaments that are found in the body, but we don't need to learn them. So let's move on now. So we have the umbilical cord. We're moving into the liver. So just like us, right, just like when we eat, our blood goes to the liver first, hepatic portal system. Same with the baby. So the bright red blood that's coming into the baby, right, is going to come into the liver first for the liver to screen it. But the liver is developing, right? The liver's not functional quite yet. It's not really screening. So the blood that's coming in, there's a lot of blood coming in. It's diverted from the liver. So there's a diversion path that puts it right into general circulation. This blood vessel is unique to the fetus because it disappears as an adult, and that's called the ductus venosus. Okay? So this is in your notes. This is a diversion away from the liver. Is it dangerous that the baby is not screening the food coming into its body? No. Why? Mom did it for the baby, right? So mom's body already screened it. Okay, good. So ductus venosus takes over here. So we're done with the eating part. What about the breathing part? So if you look at letter B, there's two routes which avoid the pulmonary system because, think again, the baby's lungs are not working. The baby's not breathing, right? So while the lungs need blood to develop, they're not oxygenating the blood. So not all of the blood needs to go to the lungs. So what do we want to avoid? We want to avoid the right ventricle, right? Because the right ventricle is the ventricle that pumps it to the blood, pumps it to the lungs. All right, so let's look. So as the blood comes into the right atrium, and we know that blood will go into the right ventricle, but to divert some of that blood away, there's actually a hole from the right atrium that pops the blood right over to the left side. So that hole is called the foramen ovale. And that's in minutes. So foramen ovale is in the wall between the two atria allowing that oxygen, sorry, the blood to go into the left side. Notice that they're using the color purple here, right? Because the bright red blood from the mom is getting diluted a little bit with the venous blood of the baby, so you have intermediate oxygen content. Okay, so we have some blood getting to the right ventricle, and as the right ventricle pumps, it goes into the pulmonary trunk. We're on our way to the lungs, but there's another little side diversion. There's a connection between the pulmonary trunk and the aorta, right? So we're going to avoid the lungs again. That's called the ductus arteriosus. So if you remember that, ductus arteriosus and foramen ovale, those are the two diversions. Yes?
Only babies have that.
Only babies have that. Yes. When the baby's born, this is like kind of the fun, really cool thing, is that there's this pressure change, and I have it written down in just a sentence, but there's, the lungs will inflate with the baby's first breath, and so there's this dynamic change in pressure with the arteries and the pressure within the heart. So there's little flaps that are sitting behind the foramen ovale that basically close. Okay, so the foramen ovale shuts with the inflation of the lungs. And then there's a chemical transduction system that closes off. So the ductus arteriosus has smooth muscle in it, so the smooth muscle will contract. So it just pinches this off. And then immediately with that first breath, you get correct blood flow in the heart. Okay? Now, it takes a while for these to completely fuse. The closed off foramen ovale, I have in the notes, it's called the fossa ovalis. So on the very last part of this lecture, structures in the adult heart, number 1 is fossa ovalis. And this is in the heart model. I have a number 55 there, so you can find the fossa ovalis. And then number 2 is also on the heart model, number 10, is the ligament that is still present to show you the remnant of that ductus arteriosus. So this is called the ligamentum arteriosum, which is very Harry Potter, right? And in fact, one Halloween, I did tell my daughter that ligamentum arteriosum was a Harry Potter spell for love or something. Ligamentum arteriosum. All right. And I told her corpus callosum is to make you smarter.